something insane just happened. Mr. Beast not only followed me, but he followed my wife and my sister.
Before taking his immense talents out of the octagon and into the TikTok verse, former MMA fighter Keith Killa Lee was born on October 4th, 1996 in Detroit, Michigan. As the younger brother to UFC competitor Kevin Lee, Keith's ambitions always gravitated towards stepping into the octagon to prove himself just like his older sibling. Following his graduation from Southfield High School, Keith headed west to Las Vegas, where he picked himself up his first job as a sandwich artist at a local Jimmy John's for the summer. Never know why they call it a sandwich artist. Like, if you make sandwiches, you're not an artist. Sandwiches aren't art. I don't know. I hope I don't get canceled for that or something. After briefly heading to college to study sports science, Keith found himself kicked out when he could no longer afford tuition. That's when he circled back to the only thing that he's ever really known: fighting. Keith comes by his passion for combat sports naturally. Not only is his brother a trained professional, but Keith's father was also something of a street fighter back in his day, and he taught both his sons the art of self-defense from an early age. It's a good thing too, because when Keith finally got serious about MMA, his brother didn't let him get started with training wheels.
My very first time stepping in the gym, I went to do his gym, and he threw me in with like an Olympic boxer. The guy was like 126 and 4, 126 and 5, or something like that.
Monster.
And complete monster. And
Yeah.
he threw me there with headgear that didn't fit, gloves where one was big, one was too small, and threw me in there with no mouthpiece and was like, y'all go 8 rounds.
Yeah, a little bit of tough love there. And since his older brother had already earned himself a name in the business, when Keith kicked off his fighting career in January of 2015, he skipped over to lower jiu-jitsu and the beginner kickboxing classes and went straight into sparring with UFC level athletes, when his own skill level was practically non-existent. For the next 2 years, Keith would participate in a number of amateur bouts for a promotion known as Tough Enough, and earn himself a stellar 4-0 record. Following that, he'd take his part in his first professional match in January of 2017. And while Keith may have lost that first bout by decision, he'd win his next 5 out of 7 fights. And in 2020, he'd move on to Bellator, where he stepped inside of the octagon 4 times, splitting his win-loss record with 2 apiece. Unfortunately, that apparently wasn't a good enough record to keep him in their ranks, and at the tail end of 2021, Bellator served Keith his walking papers. And at that point, the young athlete found himself at a crossroad, with no idea where his life would take him next. Having spent so much time dedicating himself to fighting, suddenly Keith was faced with the prospect of reinventing himself at the age of 26 to care for his growing family. Recognizing that he had to stop relying on anyone other than himself, Keith pivoted towards social media, where he's since become one of TikTok's most influential food critics, with a growing fan base that includes more than 7 million followers. I like that it's not the traditional pipeline, you know? Usually, like, a stand-up comedian will start a podcast, or, a fitness girl will start an but, a Bellator fighter started a food critic channel, You like the originality. And Keith originally launched his TikTok account with the intent of improving his interview skills for post-match MMA media scrums. For most of his life, Keith says that he suffered from social anxiety, and as a result, he always felt like he botched his interview sessions. So, joining TikTok started as a means to improve his communication skills, as he explained to MMA Fighting, telling them, "It was about me learning how to slow myself down and how to speak at a more monotone tone. I usually speak this slow anyways, but when I get excited or nervous, I talk real fast." When he first got into producing TikTok videos, Keith focused his content not on food or fighting, but his family instead. Even with such a familiar subject matter, it was far from easy. Shooting would often take Keith about an hour and a half to create a 2-minute video because he was so nervous. Not only would his hands get clammy, but he'd sweat and start stuttering as soon as the camera turned on. Dude was low-key B-Rabbit. But thankfully, after a series of early attempts, Keith finally worked through the panic and calmed himself down. Then his content gradually began to shift. What started off as videos about his family turned into cooking videos. His wife's second pregnancy would change everything, when she began craving a whole bunch of wild and crazy stuff. Keith would record himself searching for what she wanted and then upload the results. You know what would be an ideal collab, because he always incorporates his girlfriend too, especially with the Mr. Beast one, but they should collab with Saweetie, because Saweetie is always like eating the craziest and wildest concoctions, so like I just feel like it, the brands would overlap there and it would make sense, so take my idea. Soon afterwards, Keith was contacted by the folks over at People vs. Food, a popular YouTube channel with more than 12 million subscribers at present count. They wanted Keith to show up on their series, and the former MMA fighter recognized that by appearing on a platform as big as that, he had a chance to increase his own fan base in the process. The question was, how? While speaking with MMA Fighting, Keith told them about how the moment of inspiration finally struck. I was like, okay, if I was going to be on their show and I was a viewer, what would I look for if somebody was on a different platform? What would I look for in order to get me onto their platform and watch their videos? I was like, food reviews. I would watch somebody do food reviews all day. So Keith told his wife about his new plan. He was going to start producing food reviews before appearing on People vs. Food. And from November of 2022, which is right around when he started, he's gone from just under 2 million followers on TikTok to nearly 7 million.
Hey, my name is Keith. I went into Five Below and I grabbed a bunch of snacks that I've never tried before. We're going to try all of them and we're going to rate them 1 through 10. Start with Andy's Caps Ranch Fries. I used to eat the cheddar ones a lot growing up, so I have high expectations for these. Too much garlic, not enough ranch. 2 out of 10.
Lee's reviews typically involve him sitting in front of the camera explaining where he got the food from and the number of dishes he'll be trying, along with how much he spent. He then rates each item on a scale of 1 to 10.
That's such a good fry. Like, the crinkle cut is amazing.
It's a simple enough premise, but that's probably why it's so popular. And soon enough, Keith discovered that he had a massive hit on his hands. And a moment was crystallized when he visited the 303 food truck in Vegas, a spot that reached out to him over on social media to urge him to try their cheesecake sandwich. So that's exactly what he did.
I share everything. I'm not sharing this, and I swear I'm not. Without the sauce, it's a 9 out of 10. With the sauce, it's a 10 out of 10, with no question.
24 hours later, that video had collected 6 million views. The owner of the food truck even called Keith up to let him know that their line was stretching across 2 parking lots. Now, Keith's original upload has over 30 million views, and the 303 food truck continues to report astronomical sales since Keith's review went live. In fact, from that point forward, his content has helped a handful of businesses generate over $50,000 in product in less than 12 hours. Considering his monumental success to this point, some people online are wondering if Keith will begin charging businesses to review their meals, but he remains empathetic that he doesn't plan on doing so. What's more, he says he continues to pay for each and every meal out of his own pocket as well. Over more recent weeks, Keith has also began getting tagged by several businesses struggling to survive or gain a footing in a crowded and competitive market. Keith has done his best to help them out by trying out their cuisine when he gets the chance, but he also remains brutally honest. If he doesn't like a dish, he's gonna let everybody know.
Mozzarella sauce where? This is dry. 3 out of 10.
More often than not, however, Keith's TikTok page remains a pretty positive space. Take, for instance, the Las Vegas pizzeria known as Frankensons, who has seen an explosion in popularity after Keith featured them on his account.
This is one of the best wings I've ever had. This is a 10. This is one of them ones. Yeah, Frank. Yeah, Frank. I'm coming back and I'm shaking your hand.
Truly is some heartwarming stuff. Now folks from Iowa, California, and even Utah are traveling to Vegas to give this pizza place a taste. Helping out restaurants like Frankensons is a happy side effect of Keith Lee's new business model, and one that he's incredibly proud of. He explained that MMA fighting, I love being a vessel of God. It's hard to put into words because, again, I understand. My last fight, I got cut from Bellator in August of 2021, and I fought once since then in September. That year gap was probably the hardest time of my life. What's more, while MMA rarely affords its young and developing athletes any form of financial stability, Keith's food reviews have finally provided a solid living environment for him and his family. He even recently entered into a partnership with Chipotle after one of his reviews about a customer-made quesadilla and dipping sauce gained traction with his audience. Now the monstrosity known as the Keithadilla will be available at locations all around the country starting in March. And I mean, is there really any bigger testament to how big you are and how big your social impact is if you have fast food like menu items named after you? I mean, really, like, does Soulja Boy have one of those things? Does Drake? Does Jay-Z? Didn't think so. Keith Lee was the first one. All of this is to say that Keith Lee is more popular, successful, financially stable, and straight up influential than he ever was during his days as a modestly successful professional fighter. Not that his newfound popularity has inspired him to give up on his ambitions for MMA. He still trains daily and plans on competing again professionally sometime soon. In fact, his suddenly booming profile has left him with a few deals on the table, but he's going to take his time and make sure it's the right choice, whether it's an upcoming fight or partnership in the social media space.
I heard Mr. Beast was looking for me. Let's talk about it. Earlier this morning, I received this comment from Mr. Beast. As you can imagine, I was shocked. Me, my wife, and my sister jumped up and down like little kids. I'm a fan, so is my wife and my sister. With that being said, I have 3 agreements. One of these agreements we have to come to terms on before I do a chocolate review. After we agree, I will gladly, very gladly, do a chocolate review.
So until Keith Lee steps foot inside the octagon once again, we're just gonna have to wait and see how far this new career path will take him. I mean, after all, this has been before they were famous. So thank you everybody for watching today's episode, and before you head out, why don't you do me a favor and answer the following question. If you could partner with just one restaurant to create your own custom meal, which would it be? Tell me which eatery you would partner with in the comment section down below. Otherwise, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to make sure that you never miss a new episode. And if you'd like to check out a few more similar come-ups, then be sure to check out for our looks into the lives of Yassine Sarij, Young Sweet Row, and Loaf. My name is Clyde Smith, and I'll see you guys in another video.